Highguard is clearly a failure of epic proportions, and while we've seen the media coping and seething, and we've seen gamers absolutely wrecking this title, we now have the developers coming out making a bunch of statements saying they didn't expect the hate, it's completely unfair, and that they only need a small community to keep this game alive. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I completely understand when you put years of time and effort into something, you want to protect it. You want people to love it the way you do. You want them to see all the little details you put into your experience. But at the end of the day, if you create a bad product, people are not going to stick around, people are not going to support you, and ultimately it's going to be a failure. And that is what we have seen with Highguard. It just isn't the experience that people wanted, and I don't understand how it is so boring when they've thrown every system possibly into this game. It is wild to me that you have guns, you have swords and hammers and just melee, you have these control points, you have multiple maps, then you have things like mounts, epic guns, airdrops, things like zip lines, and it is still just so dull. I personally think that it was initially going to be a 6v6, but they scrapped that idea because they were not sure of what the performance was going to be having matches that large. Maybe they just figured the community for this title would be small, so having 3v3 would make it easier for people to find matches. Either way, it just needed more time to cook. It seemed like this was an early access game, and I think that if it released in early access, people would have been much more generous with their scores and their opinions. But they decided to release this, and boy oh boy, do people not like it. And now the developers are coming out and talking about this game. So, this is from a few days ago. The Highguard devs say a super huge player count isn't the goal. Attracting a core group of fans that love us is, I get that you probably don't need 100,000 people active every single day for your title to be successful. But when you go from 97,249 on release day to 7,802 just 4 days later, yeah, that is not a good look. There were so many people that decided, you know what? I don't want to play this anymore. 90,000 people said to themselves, yeah, this is not the game for me, and uninstalled very quickly. That's a terrible look. I don't know what they initially expected. I don't know if they thought maybe they would average like 30,000, or maybe they expected, oh, 5,000 people are going to play. I highly doubt it, just because, yes, this is from people behind Apex Legends and Titanfall, games that were very successful. The studio says that it's looking for a core group of fans that love us, not to top the Steam charts. We don't need player counts to be super huge, and what's most important for Highguard is a dedicated audience, and that will allow us to grow. And this doesn't make sense to me because I would understand if it had an entry fee. If you were paying $40 to play this experience and then you don't refund, they make money off of that. But when you only have 7,800 players in game and it has already dropped to 5,000 players in game at once, and you're not constantly releasing skins for the people that are going to be your whales, you're not going to make a lot of money, because I highly doubt the 90,000 other players swiped their credit cards. I just don't see that happening. So how does any of this make sense? You need as many players as possible in a free-to-play game in order to make money. We do not know the budget of Highguard, but judging by the fact that there were a lot of people that worked on this game and a lot of high-profile people that worked on this game, it had to be a hefty chunk of change. But it does not stop there, because the Highguard devs are now saying that they are confident in their game, but that they didn't expect the hate. The lead game designer, Carlos Pineda, said the belief came from the fact that they had a game that you couldn't find anywhere else, so we felt very confident in that, which is wild to me because technically, yes, you can't find this exact game anywhere else, but the problem is that you took so many other elements of other games and shoved them into this experience. And I get it. Ultimately, you're going to end up copying some other product. I'm not sitting here saying, oh my gosh, it's a knockoff of X, Y, and Z. But when you do have other elements that are so prominent and done better in other experiences, you kind of look like clowns. There's nothing in this game that truly felt innovative. There's nothing in this game that felt like it was completed. It really just felt like an early access build of a game, which isn't a good look, obviously. You don't want your game to come out and people say, yeah, this just needed 10 more years worth of development time. They were asked if they had foreseen the reaction to the trailer given the hero shooter discourse, and one of them had said, I don't know, not really. We were very excited that night. We were all partying at the Game Awards party afterwards. We were just excited to get the game out there. And yeah, it does seem like some of the people on this team are very passionate. I just wish they did a better job. We had talked about Shadow launching it. The problem there is that no one knows who we are. And I do actually think their marketing strategy, where they went silent for a month, worked out in their favor. I think that some of the 97,000 players were interested simply because they had gone silent. But it's very clear that after the streamers' paychecks cleared, and after their allotted stream time, in order to get paid, they didn't go back to it, and their audience didn't either. It says there's always concern about how the market is saturated. People are always going to ask, why should I care about this game? And you need to have an answer for that. They didn't set out to make a hero shooter. Heroes were introduced because they made the game better. They came in much later, which is crazy because it just seems like another hero shooter. It just feels like you have Overwatch or Apex Legends or Valorant in a larger form of a map. It always comes down to the fact that we had a game that you couldn't find anywhere else, so we felt very confident in that. For the first few years, we were like, what is this game? Then we simplified it and simplified it. So, yeah, they've clearly been working on this game for many years. I think that the figure we have is they've worked on this game for about 5 years, which it doesn't seem like that to me, and clearly a lot of other people would also agree with that given the responses to what the developers are saying. The game received hate simply because it was glazed by Jeff and was presented as the very last game of the show. I'm always sad when devs pour years of work and love into a project and it gets hate on / dies immediately. Just don't play it, but the hate campaign is crazy. The reason why companies release teasers and trailers is for people to judge them. Yeah, clearly you want us to judge them positively, but we also are allowed to judge them negatively. And this is coming from an account that was made in December 2025, which was around the time the game was unveiled, so that seems a little bit suspicious to me. We made something no one else is making, and no one wants this, can both be true at the same time. Unique game, looks like Apex with fantasy skins. Good luck getting those eyeballs back. Realm Royale Reforged. Imagine launching a game that loses 96% of its players in 4 days and then telling the press you were confident because your game is unique. It is just a very bad game, in my opinion, and I do believe that it deserves backlash because these developers did not create a good experience. I'm not going to sit here and coddle them and pat them on the back and say, you did your best, when clearly this is a game that people were not asking for. The scores on Metacritic, of course, are very bad. It is sitting at a 2.3 with 24 positives, 18 mixed, and 139 negatives. Most people are saying it's badly optimized, it's boring, 3v3 on a large map makes no sense. Some people say that they can't even describe it and it's a disgrace to development. Absolutely awful game, and the scores on Steam are not much better. Funny enough, for the English reviews, it is actually sitting at a mixed score. There are some people that are giving it positives that are saying this game could have been good. So they're trying to like reverse review bomb it. But as you can see, the total reviews in all languages is still sitting at a mostly negative. And in my opinion, this is what matters the most because you need people from around the world to play your game and be interested in it in order for it to be successful. And that isn't happening. So, yes, at this point, it seems like the developers are coping over the fact that this game died so quickly. They're saying they only need a small group of people to play it in order for it to be successful. They're saying that they had a game that you couldn't find anywhere else, but of course, that doesn't mean that your game is actually good. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.